Hey everybody, it's Ingrid Blackburn. Welcome to the Creative Grove. If you're new to my channel, be sure to hit the red subscribe button. There should be a notification bell. Click that to be notified of all the great new tutorials that I post. I have a supply section in case you're curious about any of the supplies that I'm using. Go ahead and click any of those links. It helps support my channel, which I greatly appreciate. Thank you very much. And if at any point you find that you really enjoyed this tutorial, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. So today we're going to create actually 5 projects. I'm going to make 5 just with that one little strip of background that you see and several kind dyes. You could very quickly create up to 20 projects with what I'm going to show you. It's so incredible how fast you can create these backgrounds, and they're so beautiful. I think you'll really enjoy it. Now I'm squeezing out a little bit of raw umber brown acrylic paint. I'm actually using a couple different browns just to mix because my raw umber is a little old. I shook it up really well, and then I'm just adding a little bit more fluid paint from a burnt umber tube, and we're just going to blend those together. The key when you're creating your backgrounds is to use your brayer in your favor. You don't want to just kind of rub it against your gel plate. You want to roll and lift, roll and lift. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually lifting to help move the actual round brayer portion around and really spread the paint out a little more evenly. If you don't, you're going to get kind of these weird little globs. And that kind of affects your final print. So you want to remember to constantly lift your brayer as you're doing it. Now I'm spreading out my paint, kind of cleaning off my brayer on my second plate there. If you don't have a second plate, just do this on half and use the other half as your cleaning tool, and just kind of wiping it off onto a regular, or rolling it off onto a piece of cardstock towards the end. And I was kind of lifting from the right side to kind of get rid of some of that paint because I wanted it to be a little clear. I'm laying down this beautiful stencil by the Crafters Workshop, and remember I have links down below so you'll get to see exactly which stencil it is. And now we're going to take a piece of paper, and this is Neenah Exact paper. I use this for all my mono printing. It's relatively inexpensive, and you can get an entire ream for, somewhere in the $10 vicinity, $10 to $13. It's an excellent paper. It's not something I would use for card base, but it works for mono printing. You can see I'm trying to pull up some of that brown with the stencil laid down because what I want left is just some brown flowers. So I'm kind of pulling up the positive images and hoping for the negative to be left behind. I'm kind of coming in on some other spots and just lifting up, kind of clearing it a little bit because we're going to lay color down and I want that to shine through, but I still want to have some of that grungy brown flower goodness going on. Now the other plate dried really quickly because remember that was the secondary plate, so that paint was not as thick as the heavy body paint on the right. And I was trying to pull up as much as I could. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now when we move on to the next step, you'll only see me work with one plate. But this is how we actually got to that plate. Now you can see I had a little too much of the brown on the left side of the left plate. So I'm kind of coming in with a paper towel and trying to get it to stick and pull up. And what it's doing there is it's just kind of leaving that grunginess behind. So when I go to lay my color on top of that, once that has dried, it's going to have that really nice kind of textured character to it. So now we're going to work with the one plate, and I have a little 6x6 plate that I'm using for my other brayer, and I'm using fuchsia and olive, and these are some other acrylics by Ranger. This is Dina Wakley's paints, and this is Ocean right here. And you can see that this is a kind of a, it's still heavy body paint, but it's not quite as thick as some of my paints from a tube, but they're beautiful, these colors. So I'm using a small brayer to just kind of spread it around here. I use both small and large brayers, and I'm just kind of putting that off onto my little 6x6. And here's the fuchsia. And you can see these colors are a little bit more of a muted palette. Not necessarily so bright and vibrant, but wait till you see. They are vibrant. They don't look as vibrant as some of the other colors that you see me use sometimes. And look at that blue once it crosses over and it mixes with that olive, it turns to emerald, and mixing with the fuchsia, it turns into a really deep kind of royal purple. Oh gosh, I love blending these colors. And then from here, we're just going to pop a piece of paper. And again, that's the Neenah Exact paper. and that's just in white. Love that paper. It's nice, it's lightweight. It is cardstock. It's, even though I use 110 GSM, it's not as thick as my other regular Nina Solar White or my Catherine Pooler cardstock, which is even better. I love that cardstock even more. And you can see I was kind of pointing to a kind of a paint scab that I have building up there. And yeah, I ended up picking that off because it was resisting everything. And so here, this paint is actually really close to drying. So I'm adding another sheet there. And I don't really have a whole lot on that plate, just a little tiny bit. But you can see that we're going to try to pull up as much as we can. And I'll probably pull that up right away versus the other one. And you can see me sometimes holding my hand off to the back. I'm seeing how cold or warm that is. And look at those colors. They're just nice and subtle, and I love that. Because that paint dried so fast, because it was a real thin layer, you can see I'm going to try and pick some up and nothing's coming up. I'm going to add white heavy body paint to that, and I'm going to use Soho paint. It's just a student grade paint. It's actually made by Jerry's Artorama. And we're going to spread that around really well and then take a second print of kind of the grunge that's left over. And then I'll just use those on another project. It's just a base for other cards, you know, and other things that you can do. What I'm showing you here is you can actually get a lot of prints when you have a gel printing session. I decided to use another clean piece of cardstock, and I'll put that over there and do the exact same process. But what I was kind of saying earlier was sometimes you'll see me hold my hand up to the back of the cardstock when I've laid it onto the gel plate. And what I'm doing is it's very cool when you first have it on and when it's still kind of wet, and then as it dries it's not as cool, and that's really what I'm checking for. So here I'm just rubbing and kind of burnishing the back, trying to get, you know, it to stick as much as possible. I want to pull up as much as possible. Being that you have a heavier body paint go down over that, the goal is to lift up everything so that I can get as close a print as I can to that one, because there was so much great grunginess kind of stuck on there. And I don't need to let this one, and you see I'm testing the coolness of it. I don't need to let this one sit as long as the one on the right because I don't have as many layers. You know, I didn't have as thick a layer of paint there. And look at that. I mean, those are great bases for a card. You know, they're great bases for all sorts of stuff. I'm pointing to a petal where it resisted it on one, but it pulled up on the other. It pulled up with the heavy body paint, the white behind it. So we're going to put that plate off to the side. We're done with that one. And we're kind of getting to the point where we need to pull this up. And I'm really excited about this one. Testing the back. I get very impatient. I want to pull them up so fast, but I really have to keep myself busy so that I don't just immediately pull it up. Are you like that? If you are, let me know in the comments below. But wait till you see this. It's so beautiful. These colors were so incredible. I kind of used, you know, kind of fallish colors with the, you know, kind of darker magenta and the olive, and look at that, it's totally bright. It created like a vibrant emerald and almost a royal blue mixed with the marine, crossed with the fuchsia, and it's kind of royal bluish purple. Gorgeous. And look at those flowers. That was that dried layer of flowers from the stencil, from the Crafters Workshop stencil that we had put down. It's just beautiful. I love this. And all the other little corners just kind of resisted a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually cut this in half, and we're going to use the part that has the stencil on it, the flowers. And I'm just kind of pointing to all the new colors that it created. Those are the colors, the magenta, you have, you know, the blue, and then the olive green. But look, you have emerald, and you have royal purple, and you have deep blue, kind of like an indigo. So much goodness. So now that we have our background, you can see I just cut that in half and trimmed it up. I have the 3 kind dies, and these are new dies by Catherine Pooler Designs, and they're meant to layer on top of each other. You can see the very bottom, there's the smallest one, and that layers into that one, and then that one layers into the background. And we are going to use the 2 larger ones. We also have a coordinating stamp set, And we're going to use our background and cut it up. There's the full sheet. You can see I just slice it right down the middle and trimmed off the edges. And basically what I have is I have a 4 1/4 wide piece. You can see it's going to go end to end, and I'm going to basically cut it into 5 pieces. So just shy of 2 inches. And then we're going to layer these very cool kind dies. I have the Kind of Wonderful stamp set there off to the right, and we're going to stamp that in several colors. And you can see I'm kind of matching up my Catherine Pooler inks to the acrylic paints that I've used, and these are the Ranger paints. But I've created such amazing hues that I'm able to kind of find some very cool vibrant inks in Catherine's line that go perfectly with these. So now we're going to take that kind stamp, which is beautiful. It's illustrated by Nanette Tracy. She's a new illustrator for the Catherine Pooler line. And you can see here I'm just kind of experimenting. That first stamp had a little something on there, so it was a little dark. I cleaned off my stamp and it was a little more of green tea, which still wasn't quite what I was looking for. I was looking for a little more yellow in there. So stamping first with Sauna, and then we're going to layer green tea kind of over almost all of it, letting a little of the Sauna peek through. I didn't really smash that down very hard onto there. You know, the foam stamps, the foam ink pads, they give off so much ink, and that was really the perfect combination there. Now it was really kind of matching. So we're going to start with a little bit of the green tea and then add some Daydream over that, and that's going to help give you that beautiful emerald look. So it has a little bit of that blue quality. The green tea kind of just really brightened that color up a little bit, and that, you know, I just had fun here. I experimented with a couple of color combinations, and throughout this I was able to get a lot of perfectly stamped images onto Catherine Pooler cardstock is what I'm actually using, because it's very, very bright white, and when I'm stamping with her line of inks I don't want to use anything else. Now you can see how that middle die fits perfectly around there, and it's going to give us a white border to that. If I were to use the smallest die, which is the exact image of that, and I'm going to show you right here what they all look like. That's the second and third die together. So the second die gives you that white outline around that image, and that worked out really well for me. And then now here you can see this is the smallest die, and you can see it cuts out the kind stamp perfectly without any sort of a border as well. But I would probably use that right there, like the chocolate cardstock, just to do a simple word die. So now it's time to put all the pieces together, and I've got all of my kind, you know, word dies kind of cut out, and I'm matching them up with my backgrounds. I wanted some contrasting colors, some similar colors, but this part was very quick and very easy to do. You know, I had so many that I stamped. It was very, very easy to cut them out using the dies, and they layer so beautifully, and this is truly going to be a beautiful card. I'm choosing to matte my background with some chocolate cardstock, also Catherine Pooler cardstock, and just wanted to do that 3/16 of an inch, so there's just a sliver. I didn't want that to take away from the card because the kind dies have so much of a matting already. You know, I thought, you know, I didn't want to compound it by having another 1/8 of an inch on the top and an 1/8 of an inch on the bottom. Using some clear drying matte medium glue just to put everything together, make sure that it's all laying nice and flat. And this part actually went rather quick. So now when you layer your dies, you know, this third piece, it had kind of that extra bulk to it, and that's really because they're nested in each other and you can't have them cut out from both pieces. I just chose to just cut that out. It's just something for me. You know, that's my personal taste. You might like it better the other way. The nice part about it was very simple to do, so it's something that, you know, everybody can pick and choose whatever they like. Now from here, I just want to make sure that that is kind of up higher, so I just glued that down, and then I'm going to pop up the kind die. You know, that gives this card a little bit more drama, using some foam tape, and I'm making sure to get all the little pieces so that it stays that way when it goes through the mail. Just kind of cutting it down and making sure that that's really up higher, and then we're going to stamp the sentiment right below it. The fun part about the Kind of Wonderful stamp set, you know, there's so many different options. I'm using icing on the cake, say matches the chocolate cardstock, and I'm just stamping changes everything. Kind changes everything. You know, this is just such a great card. You know, it's good for so many things. It's really good for just, hey, hi, how are ya? It's just saying, hey, you know, if you're having a bad day, kind changes everything. It's just a great way to just change, you know, your outlook on life, you know, no matter what's going on. So there it is. Isn't it a cool card? I love that Crafters Workshop stencil, and mixed with the Kind of Wonderful set, gotta add some sequins. So I did this super quick. I hope that's okay. Make sure that you're using an adhesive that dries crystal clear. That's very important. Thanks so much for joining me. Here are some close-ups. I love how vibrant and colorful these cards are. I hope you enjoyed learning how to create mass backgrounds so quick and easy, and then pairing them up with your Catherine Pooler inks or whatever inks you have at home. There's no right, there's no wrong. The ultimate goal is to just have fun. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Bye-bye.